This is Tennyson E Stead, writer and director of Quantum Theory, founding member of 8-Sided Films, here with another 8-sided blog for you. And today I'd like to talk about something I hear from the audience and something I hear from bloggers and other professionals where they meet a celebrity of some kind and they find themselves drawn into a conversation and they discover that this celebrity is a real person and they get really excited about the idea that this is just a normal individual. This is just another guy or girl who's doing a job and otherwise is completely relatable. And I just wanted to, in the interest of making sure that we as professionals understand what our responsibilities actually are, I want to draw a line between relatable and normal. Because the truth is, if these people are, in fact, really, really successful, and they're giving us work that they admire, that we admire, then they're probably not all that normal. They probably are very relatable, and it's part of their job to find ways of becoming that for their audience. But that doesn't mean that they're not doing things that other people don't do. And really, when we get trapped in the headspace of thinking that we can live a quote-unquote normal life and still build a tremendously successful entertainment career, we have to shortchange one of those two things. There's absolutely no question in my mind that that's true, and it's going to be the entertainment career that gets shortcutted. Living a normal life is going to eventually mean shutting down your work, and that's okay if that's what you want to do. That's a completely legitimate choice to make in one's life. It's just, that's not how you succeed in entertainment. So I wanted to take a step back and look at what actually it takes to build oneself into a place of leadership and a place of celebrity, because the amount of responsibility that you have to take on to make that position of leadership sustainable is going to be more than a full-time job. So right up front, you have to accept that it's not just a job. They're not just doing a job. They are partaking in a lifestyle. There's no question. Because keeping their relationship with their audience open, making sure that they're in constant communication with not just all the media people who have questions for them, and not just their quote-unquote marketing efforts or whatever, but with the audience themselves. And really the most important thing that you can do to make sure that the relationship with your audience is growing and that it's intact and that it's healthy is to physically show up for them. You have to go to the festivals, you have to go to the conventions and the press junkets and everything else, not just because it's a responsibility that you have, but also because if people don't get the chance to come and interact with you, if you're not available for them, then you're not a community, and you're not sharing and giving yourself to a community, so you're not part of one. And if you're not part of the community that includes your audience, then you don't have an audience. So that workload in and of itself is, if you're doing it right, prohibitive to a normal life. And then the other side of it is the fact that in order to have something valuable to offer that community, especially in such a competitive entertainment landscape, you've got to be one of the best people in the world at whatever you do. You have to be. Now, there's a lot of people in the world that do what we do, and most of the people that I know are among the best in the world at what they do, statistically. There's a lot of amateurs and a lot of hobbyists, and I don't mean amateur in a detrimental sense. I have brain damage. Detrimental sense. But in a sense of people make movies without wanting to make a life out of making movies. They don't want that to be their primary responsibility in life, and they don't want that to be their primary source of income or security. So they are amateurs because they're not professionals. And being on a professional level automatically puts you above a lot of people that do what we do. And then as you become better than most professionals at what you do, you really, the air starts to get pretty thin. You know, once you've been working for 20 or 25 years very consistently and very diligently at improving your craft, you know, you start to become undisputably good at it. And then, you know, after that, every day of work you put in differentiates you from the other best people at what you do. So maintaining that workload, maintaining that growth curve, maintaining your relationships with your audience, building all of the habits that it takes to do that work as automatically as possible. And then on top of that, taking on the projects that actually catalyze that community. Because what's the point in going to a film festival if you don't have a movie? What's the point, you know, or a play? Or what are you doing for people? What are you giving them? You have to put those productions together. You have to actually do that work on top of all the rest of it. And, you know, and then once you accept that, it does take a certain personality, you know, and also doing all of that work for all that time influences your personality. When you do something again and again and again, routinely, day in, day out, it does start to become a habit. It starts to work its way into your cerebral cortex. It becomes a neural pathway. And your brain starts to rely on the strength of that neural pathway, the fact that it's so solid and so reliable, because it's always working, for other pieces of information. So, you know, a drummer who drums and drums and drums and drums and drums will eventually do things very rhythmically. They just can't help themselves. They sometimes will get upset when their rhythm is broken in life. You know, that's normal for a drummer. That's expected. And the same thing is true of actors, and the same thing is true of musicians, and the same thing is true of directors and writers. The things that you do again and again and again and again become a very integral part of all the other things that you do. They become a part of who you are, in you know, unavoidably, because of neurology, you know, and somebody who's been giving fantastic performances for 25 years is going to be somebody who does latch onto conflict whenever they see it. Maybe it's a different conflict from another actor. Hopefully it's a productive and healthy conflict, and they've built that habit too, but certainly they're going to find a way to engage every time, you know, every single time. They get bored, they get frustrated when they don't have that. So we have to remember that there's always, you know, there's always a performance happening, and when we see a reality presented by a celebrity that makes it look like we can have our goals without doing the work that I'm describing, without making the sacrifice of that normal life, of normalcy in our lives, we have to remember that they are meeting us halfway. They're coming to us and introducing themselves and making their lives palatable and entertaining for us. They're reading us because that's a habit that they have too. They read us very quickly because it's their job to be able to read one another. If you're an actor, you have to be in the scene. You have to know what other people are doing, you know, and then they engage. So whatever characters we're seeing are bound to be, on some level, and this is something everybody does, it's just actors are better at it. They're bound to be created to make themselves more accepted and to make themselves more useful in the immediate environment that they're in, which that environment is created by our expectations. So, I don't know, this is a little rambly of a blog, but I think the basic message I'm trying to get down to here is, I think if you look at entertainment as something that you can pursue as just a job, and that you can build this nuclear family around that job, and, you know, and live a life that your parents who worked in, you know, in a corporation or a factory or wherever are going to have a very easy time understanding, or your friends from where you came from, or whatever the case may be, whatever model of normalcy you are trying to fit into. I think that if you come into this industry expecting to be able to duplicate that instead of first and foremost meeting the needs of the community that's in front of you, I think you're setting yourself up for failure unless you're looking to work in a way and in a place in the industry that doesn't require a lot of personal investment. And that means the non-creative work, as so many people put it. I'm talking about middle management. I'm talking about working either as a manager or as an executive at a film company. I think that might be achievable because I think the expectations of the other people around you that you're trying to help are going to be very similar to your own in those kinds of environments. But if you're looking to become a star, become an actor that's known around the world, and you saw an interview or had a conversation with a celebrity where you realized, oh my gosh, they're just like me. You know, they're just like you except for all the ways in which they aren't. And if you're going to want to achieve that level of success, you're going to have to become more like them than they are going to have to become like you. And that is absolutely the point I was trying to make. So this is where the video blog ends. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much for your time and support. I'm going to take a moment to thank Lee for putting this up. Thank you, Lee. And give us a like. Give us the likes. The likes and the subscribes are right down there. If you subscribe to 8-Sided Films, we're working on a web series right now that's going to be about documentary footage of old government projects that never should have existed, which is a fiction web series, let me be clear. Science fiction, set in the 70s, set in the Cold War, called Declassified, which I think everybody's going to enjoy. And Gerard Marzelli is going to be our first lead for season 1 of Declassified, and the season is going to be about the attempt that we made to send one man on a one-way mission, 8 years long, to Saturn's moon of Titan to attempt a landing using Apollo technology and nuclear rocketry. I think it's going to be good, and I think we'll be glad we did it. So, you know, give us a subscribe. Be here when we release the first episode. We're going to be in production soon. And I will talk to you guys next week. Have yourselves a fantastic week. Thanks again. Bye-bye.